Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. We are right back into Fighters Ambition reveals, and today we're talking about Extra Card Broly, which is kind of like a sleeper good archetype. It's not like amazing broken or anything, but there's going to be certain situations in the meta where this is going to be a good deck, and I want to kind of point those out to you guys. Playing a little bit of catch up because the set is almost fully revealed at this point, but I still want to give you guys the best analysis for each archetype that I possibly can. So we're doing that in today's video. If you guys are new here though, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. If you guys want to support the channel, there are tons of ways to do so down in the description, but since we're talking about kind of like competitive play and analysis, if you guys want to step your game up, consider checking out the Patreon down in the description. You guys can read the articles that I have posted there. You can also inquire about coaching if you're interested in that, especially with Nats right around the corner. Might want to look into that. Anyways, let's jump right on into the leader. We have the Unawakened side. Broly, activate main once per turn, discard one card from your hand, look at the top 7 and choose 2 green extras among them and place them under this card, and then shuffle your deck. So a couple things here. One, if you guys haven't heard before, which I'm sure you probably have, this is a deck that the gimmick is placing extra cards under your leader, and that's going to basically act as a second hand for you. So your extra cards are typically going to be the same under your leader as if they were in your hand. The one thing I don't like is that I wish this didn't have a discard cost. Now I know you're putting 2 extras under your leader, and that's almost like drawing 2, but while the extra cards are usable under your leader, it's still a deck full of extra cards. So it's not going to be the same type of value as if you had a deck full of battle cards, especially where you can, like, you know, free play certain battle cards and whatnot. So that makes it a little bit more awkward. Again, I just wish this didn't have a discard cost, but it is what it is. Awaken, realize 4 or less, or you have 2 or more energy and there are 5 or more extras under this card. Draw 1, untap 1, and then flip this card over. Can we just talk about the fact that, like, for the past like 3, 4, 5 sets, every single leader awakens on turn 2? I don't know if it's like a good or bad thing. I don't have a super strong opinion on that, but like it does make things a bit too standard for my liking. Maybe like more control-y type decks could awaken a bit later. I don't know, just something I've thought about. But anyways, on the regular awakened side of the leader, when this card attacks, draw 1, then place up to 1 green extra from your hand under this card, and then add up to 1 green extra from your drop to your Z energy. So I love that this guy has easy Z energy setup. That is something that is very sorely missed from this entire set. Most of the set, really like 99% of the set, does not have the ability to set up Z energy easily. So that's really nice here. You can draw the card, you can keep it in your hand, but again, generally when you have the extra cards, you just want to put them under your leader because they operate the exact same as if they were in your hand, so that's perfectly fine. Activate main once per turn, place 1 green extra from your hand under this card, and then your opponent discards 1 card from their hand. So just going along what I said before, if the extra cards are the same in your hand as they are under your leader, you are actually just making your opponent discard 1 card for absolutely free, which is pretty cool, honestly. Activate battle, place 1 green extra from under one of your Broly BR cards in the owner's drop, and then choose one of your Broly BR cards, and it gets plus 5,000 power for the battle. So we've seen this tons of times with other gimmicky decks. Dark Broly with the 0 combo power, Cooler with all the unisons. This guy can take extra cards from under a Broly and use them as combo power, so that's not bad. And it gives the extra cards an added usage under your leader because you wouldn't be able to do this if they were in your hand, only if they're under your leader. So at the worst case, every extra card under your leader is a 5k combo, which does declunk the deck a little bit. That's a big problem you have with like extra card based decks, right? Is that they're very clunky because you don't have the combo power necessary to get out of certain things like other decks do. But this leader helps make up for that in a couple ways. Now we have the Z leader. So in my opinion, you want to get to the Z leader pretty quickly. I've played a handful of games with this deck, and I'm still working on my build, but the Z leader is very good. So we have a 2 Z energy cost, which again, with the awakened side of this leader is very easy to meet. Z awaken for a green, realize 4 or less, and it's over a green Broly BR. When this card attacks, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, place up 2 green extras among them under one of your Broly BR cards, and this card gets plus 10k for the battle, so it swings 25, not bad. Activate main once per turn for a green. If you have 4 or more energy, play 1 green Broly BR with energy cost of 8 from your hand. There are a few that we'll talk about in this video. Activate battle, place 1 green extra from under one of your Broly BRs in the drop, then choose one of your cards, and it gets plus 5k power for the battle. So what's cool about this is now, once you're on your Z leader, you can actually combo with the extra cards on any of your cards, not just your leader or not just a Broly BR. So that's pretty cool. Although this deck is pretty archetype based, so like it'll usually be on Broly cards, but it won't always be, so that's pretty nice. Alright, so now we have some Brolys that are coming out in this set, as well as some Brolys you may want to consider playing. Broly Unrealized Ambition is one that I've teched into my deck. only for matchups that are like not very aggressive with you, or don't allow you to awaken early. And honestly, that's not really the format right now, so this is probably not a card you need to main deck. But if like red takes severe hits on the ban list, for example, you may want to main deck 2 to 3 copies of this card to make sure you get yourself to 4, because you do want to be able to Z awaken by about turn 3, maybe even turn 4. So if you can do that, and your leader notice also does not take yourself down to a certain life on awaken, so you might awaken at like 7 life. This can get you down there to 4 or 5. And then after I've done that with Unrealized Ambition, I usually combo him off so that I don't run the risk of him getting KO'd and me having to burn more life. Anyways, next up we have Broly Bestial Rage. We have 3-drop 15k. When this card's played, draw 1, and then KO a 5 or less. When this card attacks, it gets plus 10k power for the battle, and at the end of the battle, place this card in the owner's drop and add up to 1 green extra from your drop to your Z energy. So more Z energy setup, which is kind of nice. I do like this replaces itself. Now, one thing I don't know is if this dies during battle, does this full auto still resolve as much as possible? Like, you can't place this card in the drop, but it's not like a then if you do effect. It just says place it in the drop and then add up to 1 green extra. And the auto activates when it attacks, so I don't think it has to be on the board to fully see the battle through. But if you know more about that, drop that in the comments. But anyways, activate main limit 1 for a green. If there are 4 or more extras under your green Broly BR cards, play this card from your hand. I'm not 100% sure if this card is like super necessary for the deck to function, but it is like a sort of mid-game threat. It is mid-game removal, does swing for 25, so I'm playing it at 4 right now, but it might not need to be a 4 of it with future testing. SS Broly Full Power Frenzy, 8-drop 35k, 5k combo, so we're playing 4 copies of this for the most part. Triple Strike permanent. When this card would leave your battle area, you may place 5 extras from under this card under your leader instead. So just by transferring the extra cards, you get to protect this guy from a removal once per turn, or once per however many extra cards you have in multiples of 5. So that's pretty good. When this card's played, place up to 7 extras from under your leader under this card, then choose one of your opponent's battle cards and KO it. So he can load himself up with 7, then you can use other effects to put more under him, which I believe your Z leader can do. Activate main limit 1 for 2 green. If there are 10 or more cards under your green Broly BR cards, play this card from your hand. Remember too that the Z leader can play an 8-drop for 1 as long as you have 4 or more energy, and that's where Broly Limits Transcended comes in. 8-drop, double strike, 35k, permanent during battles where this card is attacking. Your opponent can't activate counter skills with energy costs of 2 or more. Now, back in the day when this was printed, that was pretty much meant to stop Mafuba, but now this stops a slew of other things. Stops Oceanus, stops any of the blue control-y floodgates. So that's just a really cool permanent that just kind of transcends time from like, and that's funny, Broly Limits Transcended, transcends time from back in the day to now. It's a very good effect. Activate battle once per turn, choose 1 card from your hand and place it in your drop, and then choose one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and KO it. So at least between main and side deck, you'll probably play a combination of all these guys. I think between Broly, Bestial Rage, Full Power Frenzy, and Limits Transcended, they'll probably be in your main board. Unrealized Ambition, I do think is a good sideboard tech though for anyone who is going to be playing a bit more of a stally deck. Then we have Paragus Issuing Orders. This is a card you really want to start with. Auto if you lead a green Broly BR card when this card's played from your hand, look at the top 5, add up to 1 green Broly BR or green extra card amongst your hand, then shuffle, and if you added a green extra, you can put it under a Broly BR card. So get your engine going. This is actually pretty important to see to get awakened by turn 2. Activate main limit 1, send this card to the owner's warp at the start of the opponent's next main phase or your next main phase. Play this card from your warp. So if you happen to miss Cunning Murder, which we'll see in a second, you can essentially pseudo protect the Paragus and keep it alive that way until you get Cunning Murder, which is pretty important. So these extra cards all have the same permanent. I won't read them over and over and over again, but I'll read it once now. If your leader's a green Broly BR card and this card is under a Broly BR, you can activate this card's activate skill under the same conditions as if we're in your hand. So for the rest of the video, we'll call that the permanent. Activate main limit 1. If your leader is a green Broly BR card and you choose one of your green Paragus, negate skills for the turn, which is such a sad line of text, but anyways, and then place it in the owner's drop, look at top 7, and place up 2 green extras among them under your leader, then shuffle your deck. The reason why I said that's a sad line of text is because there is a 1-drop Paragus from I think set 6 that looks at top 5, adds a Broly, and if it's removed from the battle area by a skill, it untaps an energy. So if this didn't have that clause, that would have been a really cool card in this deck. Honestly, you might still play that card in this deck because you really want to start with the Paragus turn 1, but honestly, like, Paragus Issuing Orders is the best one to start with, so that other one might not be all that great. But yeah, Cunning Murder plus Paragus is a really good starter combo, can get you awakened by turn 2, very important. Next up, we have Control Rings Restraint. This card does not have the permanent, which I think makes it not very good, but quick read, activate main limit 1. If your leader's a green Broly BR card, you may add 1 green extra from under your leader to your Z energy, and if you do, and this card is placed from your hand in your drop, place this card from your drop under your leader. So without having the permanent, I think that makes this card very bad, because you take a straight -1 from your hand to basically charge Z energy. It's the equivalent of just comboing a card needlessly, which, you know, to play efficient Dragon Ball Super, we don't want to do that. So I don't think you'll really play this card in competitive builds of the deck, in my opinion, at least. All right, now to some good extra cards. We have True Power Awaken. This card's actually really cool. So it has the permanent, activate main limit 1. If your leader is a green Broly BR Z leader, your opponent may discard 2 cards from their hand, and if they don't, during your opponent's next turn, the skill cost of activate main skills on their cards in their hand in battle area is increased by 1. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. So your leader has to be the Z leader, which kind of sucks because it makes this card usable much later in the game, but it can tax their activate main skills. Now, I've confirmed with David Fashbinder, the head judge of the game, that this includes all keyword activate mains. So Patara, Union, Evolve, all those things are activate main keywords, and they will be taxed by this. Unfortunately, I think this is a little bit late in the game for it to be all that great. Like, don't get me wrong, if you come across a deck that solely relies on Fusion or Evolve or something, this can be a very annoying card for them to deal with. But in that case, because it's so late in the game, they're probably just going to pitch 2 cards, and depending on what deck they're playing, those 2 cards might not be such a huge deal. It's really such a weird thing. I wish it was usable without the Z leader, but that might have made it too good, because, like, think about this turn 1 against Sin Shenron, where they wouldn't be able to use their cracked Dragon Balls without you know, pitching 2 cards initially, right? That could be a bit of a unfair mechanic, so I get the restriction on it, but maybe this card could have been worded differently. But again, in the right matchups, it can still be very good. Activate main limit 1, place 1 green extra from your hand under one of your green Broly BR cards, and send this card from your drop to the warp, and then draw 1 card. So you're basically replacing any extra card in your hand. This is actually a raw draw 1, because again, putting extras under your Brolys is the same as keeping them in your hand, essentially. Chili's Aid, this card's really cool. It's Senzu Bean. Deals 4 or less, give one of your Broly BRs plus 5k for the turn. This is a really good card helping you defend. Just a good card. Out of Control Power, 1 drop with the permanent, activate main / battle. If your leader's a green Broly BR and your opponent has 3 or more battle cards in play, choose one of your leaders or battle cards, and then choose all battle cards with power less than or equal to the chosen card's power and KO them. So this can board wipe against you know, wide spammy boards. Kind of situational. I think it's like a 2 to 3 of at most, but still, like, can be very, very good for a board wipe. All right, now we have negates for the deck. We have Training with Ba, counterattack. If your leader's a green Broly BR card, when this card's activated from your hand or from under a card, negate the attack and add this card from your drop to your Z energy. I love that. Straight up negate that just goes to Z energy. That's awesome, and it's got the permanent. Then we have Wishing to End the Battle. We have a 1-drop counterattack. If your leader's a green Broly BR Z leader, negate the attack. Additionally, you may place 2 extras from under one of your green Broly BR cards in their owner's drops. If you do, your opponent can only attack 2 more times for the turn. So it's very similar to the card we saw for Green Gogeta. Basically, their own archetype Dormant Potential does actually stop the first attack, but then your opponent's locked to 2 more attacks after that. So basically, with Wishing to End the Battle, you can combo that with Training with Ba, and then you'll have to deal with 1 more attack after that. Or you can combo with Homicidal Clones, and that'll just theoretically stop both attacks right after Wishing to End the Battle at the cost of 1 life. That can be very good. Of course, your opponent could deal with the blocker or whatever, but theoretically, that's how it would work. And then a few more cards you can splash into the deck. SS Broly Villainous Threat is kind of made for the deck, kind of not, but it's a 5-drop 25k, deflect, unique, dual attack. It's got Villainous, which we won't even get into in this video because that's for a whole nother deck. When this card's played during your opponent's next turn, reduce the energy cost of the first extra you activate from under one of your Broly BR cards by a green. Not a bad effect. We see some Z battle cards that do the same thing that we'll look at in a second. When this card attacks, choose one of your opponent's battle cards and KO it, and that's dual attack, not once per turn, so KO 2 guys. Activating limit 1 if your opponent has 2 or more energy and there are 6 or more cards under your green Broly BR cards. Play this card from your hand. So it is a beefy threat, comes out early, helps deal with unisons by attacking twice for 25k. I do think this is a solid card. Speaking of dealing with unisons, you probably want to play the Faded Rivals combo in this deck. I currently have like a 3-3 split in my build. Needs more testing though. Cooler Effortless Strike. Really cool you can play this card in this deck. I love the fact that it's an old SPR that I never got value out of that I can actually use now. Definitely matchup dependent though. Like, it's probably not amazing against Gogeta, SS4 Gogeta, because most of their threats have deflect, but it's good against Sim, so that's one thing going for the card. But it's basically a 1-drop counterplay, negate the play of a 4 or less, and then you make your opponent pitch 1, which is solid. And then there is a TP card coming out for the deck as well. It's not legal for Nationals because there are not going to be TPs legal for Nats for Nationals, but it's still a card to consider for the deck. Golden Frieza, Commanding Presence, 2-drop 10k blocker, counterplay, play this card. If it's your opponent's turn, you have a green battle card with energy cost of 8 or more in play. Reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. Auto limit 1 if your leader's green and this card is played for the turn. This card can't be KO'd. Auto limit 1, this card activates blocker, switch it to active mode. Kind of a cool thing that it's like a dual blocker that's usable in any Broly BR deck or any green deck that can manage to put an 8 cost out. That's kind of cool. If you need more defense, this can be the guy, but still very, very weak to red, which is kind of green's problem in general. And wrapping up with 2 more cards, Chilai, Dependable Friend, 1-drop 4k, auto limit 1 if your leader's green Broly BR card. When this card's played, look at the top 7 and place 1 green extra from among them under one of your green Broly BRs, then shuffle your deck. I won't even read the activate main because it's for the Chilai Wish deck. Then we have Limo, Dependable Friend, 1-drop 4k. If your leader's a green Broly BR card and you place 1 green extra from your hand under your leader. When this card is removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill, draw 1 and then activate main limit 1. If your leader is a green Broly BR card during your opponent's next turn, reduce energy costs of the first extra you activate from under one of your Broly BR cards by a green. Now, I've talked a lot about these like Z battle cards that serve as engines for their respective decks, and Limo is actually a really good example of how they designed it. This basically allows you to cheat costs on your extra cards, but it's like it doesn't have barriers, so it's not like always going to stick around, but your opponent is slightly punished for removing it because you get to draw a card out of that. So you actually get to raw plus your hand size, which is kind of cool. I do like that. This is a good design for a card like that. But overall, that's the archetype in its full form. Is it good or bad? Well, I think this deck is going to struggle severely against very aggressive decks, aka Sin Shenron and SS4 Gogeta and the rest of the color red, I guess. The reason is, while all those extra cards act as an extension of your hand under your leader, you're still playing with a very low hand size from early on, and aggro decks can take very, very good advantage of that. So if you were playing against a slower matchup where you have time to stabilize, I think that the balance between your hand being under your leader and your hand being in your actual hand is gonna be better off than if you were up against a super aggressive deck, because they're not going to let you stabilize. And remember, your Unawakened Side is pitching cards every time you activate the effect, so you're losing resources there, you're not fully coming online, and if you lose a dice roll to a red aggro deck, you can be in a really bad spot. But I do think this deck is well positioned against like slower blue decks, maybe slower yellow decks. I do think this deck has an interesting position in the meta, depending on what the ban list looks like. But anyways, guys, that's what I got for you today. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Broly. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.